guys, today we're going to take a look at our respiratory system anatomy. So we're starting by looking at the nasal cavity, which is right here. So within nasal cavity, we have three conches. We have superior conche, middle conche, and inferior conche. Going down, right here, that would be your nasopharynx, so the space right behind your nasal cavity. Coming down here is your oral cavity, so this space right here would be your oropharynx. And then coming down here is your passage to your larynx and then separation between the esophagus and the trachea. So this space right here would be your laryngopharynx. Now, other structures we can see here is you have this little flap, that's your epiglottis. Right here would be your vocal cords. Or your larynx, and then coming down here is this tube right here, which is your trachea. And this picture also visualize your esophagus for you right here, so that tube right behind it, which is more muscular, would be your esophagus. Now coming down farther into your respiratory system, you have your right lung and your left lung. Your heart is medial to those. If you look at the branching of the trachea, here is the branching, the immediate branching as it enters the lung. That's your primary bronchi. Primary bronchi, as it branches, it becomes secondary bronchi. And secondary bronchi, if you continue going down, form a smaller branches called the tertiary bronchi. Now, in this model is not depicted, but if you're looking and comparing the right and left lungs, your right lung will have 3 lobes and your left lung will have 2 lobes. So here is the superior lobe right here. Here's the separation. Here is your middle lobe right here, and down here on the side would be your inferior lobe. So inferior lobe, middle lobe, and superior lobe on the right lung. This dome-shaped muscle you see right here, that is your diaphragm, which is essential for the process of breathing. Coming up here, again, kind of showing you the same pictures we showed you earlier. Up here, you have your hyoid bone. This is the cartilage that protects your larynx, so that's called the thyroid cartilage. In men, that's really pronounced, that's what forms your Adam's apple. The one right underneath that is the cricoid cartilage, and then eventually you go down to form the trachea. Again, the immediate branching of the trachea would be the primary bronchi, which further branches into secondary bronchi, and then eventually branches into the tertiary bronchi. Here on the picture down here, what we're depicting is actually microscopic structures. These are called the alveoli. If we're talking about each of these little circles, those would be your alveolus, which are basically air pockets where your gas exchange takes place. Now we have another model for the reproductive system that we're going to take a look, respiratory system that we're going to take a look at. So here is kind of a different depiction of the respiratory system. Again, here is your hyoid bone right here. This large blue structure you see right here, that's your thyroid cartilage. And a smaller one right beneath that would be your cricoid cartilage. They're depicting half of this gland you see in orange, so it would be actually coming right here. That's the butterfly gland, which we identify as the thyroid gland. Again, you can see your trachea coming down. Right at the center, you have your heart. If I go ahead and remove the heart, you can see the branching of the trachea as it comes into your right lung and left lung. So here is the continuation of the trachea right here. And then here is the branching of the right primary bronchi, and here is the left primary bronchi. One thing that you should notice, and you do need to know it for your lecture portion, is that the left is longer. Left primary bronchi is longer than the right one, because the heart pushes more onto the left hand side, and therefore it allows basically forces the primary bronchi on the left hand side to be longer. You do see the cardiac notch right here. Cardiac notch is basically where the apex of the heart sits. So right here would be where your apex of the heart will sit. So making this portion your cardiac notch, inside only your left lung. Now, if we're looking and comparing our left and right lung, again, your left hand side only has 2 lobes. Here is a separation fissure right here. So we have the superior lobe and an inferior lobe. These little patterns you see are called lobules, which basically increases the surface area of the lung. On the right hand side, you have your superior lobe, you have your middle lobe, and down here you have your inferior lobe. A couple of other structures that are visible here. You have your esophagus right here. You have your aorta. And then again, if I go back and open the heart, you should see 2 different types of blood vessels here. The red ones in this case are going to be your pulmonary veins, which are collecting oxygenated blood from the lungs and returning back to your heart. And the blue ones would be your pulmonary arteries that are transferring deoxygenated blood from your heart into your lungs for the gas exchange. Here is the branching of the primary bronchi. So primary bronchi comes in, forms these branches, which are secondary bronchi, and secondary bronchi form these branches, which are referred to as the tertiary bronchi. There are additional branching here, but I don't need you guys to know it for these models. So that's about it for what you need to know for your exam.